Coming to you from Dover, Ohio and Summerville, South Carolina. Two cities with absolutely nothing in common until now. This is Make Photography Great Again, a weekly podcast of commentary on the photographic industry. And now, here are your hosts, master photographers Christine Walsh-Newton and Ted Linsack.
Well, hello. Hi, Christine. Are you
Hello,
there?
Ted.
Christine, hello. Yes, Christine's there. I just wanted to make sure. Wanted to make sure you were there. Sometimes I forget that you're there. When I start, sometimes I completely forget that you're just anticipating my every breath here, and I forget that you're there.
I totally thought that that's why we were doing this, so you could just listen to your own self-talk.
That's part of it. That's part of it. Actually, I'm very quiet by nature. Okay, I know people may not believe that, but you can ask Rachel. Usually I don't say a lot, but, occasionally, though, I want to hear myself talk, right?
I'm still trying to process that part where you said you were normally very quiet. Is what?
Absolutely. Normally, I tend to whatever you want to call it, introverted. Usually, I'm pretty quiet. I mean, if I'm in a social setting, usually, unless I'm approached by another human being, normally I stick to myself,
Okay.
Do you find that hard to believe, or?
Yeah.
Do you find that hard to believe, or?
Yes, I find that hard to believe.
Really?
Yes.
It's true. It's the truth. Ask Rachel. Speaking of unbelievable, this will be a great story for you, okay? So, wonderful segue here. We both like cats.
Yes.
Right? I like cats, you like cats, everyone likes cats. And maybe you heard of this before. I don't think I've ever heard of it until I saw this story. There is an island off the coast of Japan, and it is called Cat Island, and it is inhabited by pretty much all cats. I think like I have the story here, about 120 cats on this small island. Can you imagine that? Does that sound like a paradise to you, or could that get sticky?
That really doesn't sound like a lot of cats for an island.
It must be small. I don't know. Apparently the island is called, I'm sure I'm not going to pronounce this right, Oshima, I believe. Okay, it's a remote island in southern Japan. I'm reading this here. Apparently, around the time of World War II, there was 900 people living there, and since then it's been essentially abandoned. I guess you can now, tourists can visit it pretty much for the aspect of seeing the cats, but basically there's a bunch of abandoned houses and all this kind of stuff, and the cats just roam free. It says more than 120, so that's it could be 8,000, that's more than 120.
Well, I just know how cats can multiply exponentially, and I just don't think that it's going to stay at 120 for very long, which is cool, well, actually.
Yeah, I feel like the cats are maybe behind my shoulder looking at this story and thinking, I know Milo would definitely want to move there, because she's, if she was here, the translation of her meow would be something like, anyone that could hear me, I'm being held here against my will. That's basically what she would try to tell people.
Well, she sounded pretty pitiful when you were throwing her out of the office earlier.
Yeah, they're all asleep until I start doing something, then suddenly we're very vocal. That's usually what happens around here. So yeah, Cat Island. I don't know. There's an idea for you in Japan. You can visit that. Hey, other than that, so this weekend, Northeast District judging for PPA. What are your thoughts on that? How did you do? Did you do well, good, bad? What's the deal?
Reasonable.
Do you want to talk about it or not?
No, yeah, we can talk about it. It's not any kind of tragedy. I sealed 3 images in my photographic case. I landed a 78, so I've got to decide what to do about that image. I think I'm going to reshoot it. I still believe in the concept, but the execution wasn't all there, and I kind of knew that going in, so it was a fair score. But I'm actually a little bit more excited about my artist case, because I entered an artist case for the very first time, and came away with 2 of my images. Got fairly good scores, 83, 86, so I was really happy about that. And 2 got, other end. I got a 76 and a 77, which I thoroughly expected. I really only had 2 things done, but I didn't want to send just two things in a case, so I threw in a couple things that I was really questioning. So I kind of expected those scores too. So overall, I'm reasonably okay.
Nice. Yeah, I saw you posted this morning. You posted something about the international print competition. Actually, when you posted the deadline, you posted the late deadline, and you wrote something like 2 months and 13 days.
Yep.
And I honestly thought you got that wrong. I'll tell you straight up. When I saw that, I thought, no, there's more time than that. And for some reason in my mind, I thought, no, that is far. That's like 4 months or 3.5 months. And I literally had a panic attack. And I wrote that on your status, that freaked me out.
I wondered. I thought you were being sarcastic. No, July 6th is the drop dead date. So, if you've got anything going on for that holiday weekend, you just better count on the end of June being when you get your stuff together.
Yeah, watch yourself. This is PG-13 radio or podcast, internet radio, whatever you want to call it.
You have cussed. I'm keeping it clean over here in Ohio, but you have cussed.
Never. I keep it clean all the time. That's kind of terrifying, though. The truth is, though, I mean, we're at April 24th. I mean, not only International Print Comp, but just in the course of the year. Can you imagine that in a week we're going to be in May? I mean, I don't know. Like, time is a crazy thing. It's just crazy how fast this year's going. It's unbelievable that it's almost May.
Yeah.
That terrifies me slightly.
It's
fun. So, yeah, yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's fun. Well, I hear when you get older, time goes quicker, right? Is that true? Is that yeah.
I think so.
Because it's all relative. I've heard it's all relative to how long you've lived, right? Is that the idea? Like when you're younger, you're 15 or something. That's kind of your reference. So 5 years seems like a long time or something like that. But when you're 30, when you're 40, when you're 50, you kind of have that longer reference. So suddenly a year or 2 years tends to go by quicker in relation to your whole life. Is that the deal?
Well, I guess maybe.
Wow, you have a lot of insight. You're passionate about this.
Here's what I say. Do you remember when you were a kid and it seemed like the school year went so slow and the summer went so fast?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now that I'm a older adult, everything goes as fast as summer went when I was a kid. So, seriously,
wow.
It's kind of amazing. It's crazy, I kind of been thinking about that a lot lately because Dwight and I are coming up on our 20th anniversary next month. And,
nice.
Wow. And it's
Congrats.
crazy.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. We've been together for a long time and done a lot of stuff and raised a bunch of kids, and it doesn't seem like 20 years. It's just a little bit crazy.
I'll tell you what, me and Rach have been together for 10 years, and that to me seems like, I mean, that sounds like that's like a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, but I don't know where the last 10 years has gone. It's odd. It's really, really odd. But for me, you're talking about the summer and school. That wasn't that long ago for me. Honestly, it was, well, I'm pretending. I'm older than that, but let me pretend like it wasn't that long ago.
Well, compared to me, yes, you are a youngster and you did just graduate.
See, what happens to me, I think of, so I love to fly fish, spoiler alert. I'm on the stream and it's the last 2 hours of the day or the last hour or whatever. It'll go by in what seems like 20 seconds, and then it's the 15-hour wedding day, and it's the last 30 minutes of the reception, and you're cranking it out. You rocked it the whole day, and you're ready. You're like, man, we're almost there, where I can almost just relax. And it seems like it takes like 6 hours to go through that 30 minutes. Yeah. It's funny how you get those the opposite thing going on there. Yeah,
I hear you.
So, with anytime we talk about competition, we've talked about this a few times, but let me bring this up. I don't think we've really touched on this, but anytime competition comes up, a lot of people have the discussion of other people, and we won't mention any. There's a lot of different areas out there, a lot of different companies that you can send your images to them, and they'll work them or they'll retouch them, and that's a pretty standard thing, I guess, that happens for a lot of people. A lot of people do that. What are your thoughts on that? I know we've talked about this privately, so I kind of know your thoughts on it, but the idea that you can take an image, send it to someone else, and they could totally work it however, and not only retouching, but people send them off to people that actually do Corel work and all that, and then they enter that as their own. And do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think is there any controversy there that should be addressed, or no?
I think it depends on who you are, and it depends on maybe how badly you want to merit. Okay, we'll just say it. I'll just say what I think of it. It is within the rules to, for somebody else to retouch your work under your direction in the photographic open or open photographic, whatever it's called, competition. Yeah, I should know that by now. But anyway, in the photographic
whatever it's called,
component,
whatever. Yeah.
It is, and that's where a lot of this falls under.
But it's funny. Let me go back just 1 second.
You asked me a question. Let me finish it.
Just I want to clarify one thing because it just sparked some things. So I don't know if you're reading from the rules. Knowing you probably actually have it memorized. So for someone to retouch under your direction, man, that under your direction, that's an interesting little phrase there, don't you think? Under your direction. Do you think that actually happens a lot, or is it more like, here's my image? And then a lot of these places, pretty much, it's almost the other way around. At least what I found, seeing from a lot of other people and my own experiences with that.
I don't know. Well, here's the thing. I've never done it. I've never paid money and had somebody retouch something. Now, okay. Well, this year I did. Okay, I'll have to backtrack. I was having a heck of a time with a background. Actually, I did last year too. Okay, we'll talk about this. I was having trouble with the background. I did not get the lighting even on it, and I was having a lot of trouble getting it evened out. It was a high key image, and then the floor in front of me, there was a lot of footprints and stuff, so it needed cleaned up, and it was just a little bit beyond what I had time to do. And what I had expertise to do. I was having a lot of trouble with that background. So I sent it over to retouchup.com or whatever their name is out in California. And I just asked them to clean up the floor and smooth out the lighting in the background, or smooth out the tone in the background. And, I paid, and then extra to rush it. So they did it in an hour for me. So it was $15. Now, I felt that was a legitimate following of the rules. Now, I also did this other thing where I worked with somebody who is a custom prints competition images for people. And I went and took a workshop from him. And while we were there, he did for me what he does for some people. And he retouched under my direction. I was sitting so close to him, we could have shared a chair if it was wide enough. I was right there beside him, and I was pointing at the screen, and I was saying, okay, let's fix this, that little thing right there, that needs to go away. Okay, and it was totally under my direction. He did not do anything on his own at all. A couple times he suggested a shade for a background, but I actually said no and picked another shade. So, it was so anyway, I think that also was a legitimate use under, the rules. But, if there's a situation where you can just send your image in and you say, well, this is for comp, and the person just goes wild and does their own thing, then that's not your work. And I don't think that you should enter that. But that's how I am. But a lot of people say, well, as a business person, you would employ retouchers. You would employ people to paint portraits for your clients. You would, this shows as an overall business person how you can manufacture an image. And I just don't know that I want to use comp that way.
Well, no, that's absolutely true in the sense of your business. Yeah, you will have different people. You may hire different people or have different people on staff that do your retouching. Yeah, absolutely. But the question is, with a print competition like the PPA print competition, I mean, you are entering under your name. So I think that's a little bit different. I agree with you that happens, but to say that that's kind of justification. I mean, whether you believe this is the right thing to do or not, I think it's a little bit different. Now, going back to you talking about sending something to a company like retouchup.com, which is fabulous. I mean, I use them not a ton, but man, for odd stuff, like removing stuff from the backgrounds, they're awesome. I've never had any issues with them at all. But the question is, it's a little bit different to say, wow, I sent this off for them to remove such and such from the background or to even out a tone or something like that. And I think it's a totally different thing to send something off to, I mean, let me just say, I mean, Jonathan Penny is the huge one that's out there who does a ton of retouch work and all that. Excellent work. But the question is, isn't there a difference between you telling someone to remove something from the background and then sending off an image to a printmaker like Jonathan Penny, which, will do these crazy artistic enhancements? I mean, I guess the question is, at what point do those enhancements become so much of the work that is the reason that something's doing well? And then my other point is, isn't there a difference between someone doing artistic interpretations and retouching that way versus someone just removing something from the background? I mean, isn't there a difference between that?
Oh, I certainly feel, and that was my point, I certainly feel that there's a major difference there. But again, I think we have to tread cautiously here. I have never employed Mr. Penny to do anything, so I have no idea how that works. However, with that being said, you look at the work that he has done for people, and it's a very, very similar style. And I just don't think that every single one of those people dictated that unique Jonathan Penny style. So, I think that he has a lot more influence in the end product of their image than maybe anybody would like to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not, you can't speak for every single situation. I'm sure that there are people that have really sent a detailed, description of what they want done. But I know from a fact from my own experience, not in comps. I've never done this in comp, but I've dabbled a little bit for some personal stuff. And I know people firsthand that I'm friends with. Absolutely, there are definitely people that will send images, and he will go to town, and then he may give you that back, and then quote, under your direction, you may say to change this or change that, but the artistic kind of idea is established by him at that point. And I'm not saying that's for everybody, but I'm saying there's a lot of that going on. I mean, so the question is, do you think that, I don't know, do the rules need to be changed a little bit for that? And I mean, and then the whole other discussion, I guess, okay, then you have this discussion with actual retouch work and all that, but my personal view on the whole painting and the Corel painting, man, if you send an image and someone else paints it, in my own opinion, that gives the image a completely different feel. And I personally feel it's kind of ridiculous for someone to do this amazing paint work and then send it back to the photographer, and the photographer enters it and then gets these merits, or in a lot of cases can actually get grand imaging awards. I mean, we've seen that. I personally think that painting is one of those things that, now, you can have a mediocre image, I mean, it could be whatever, but someone goes there and really goes to town on Corel and does something incredible. The impact comes from that finish work. I mean, especially in painting, it gives it such a different feel. I don't know. I think that's where it kind of crosses the line for me personally.
Oh, I agree with you there, too. It's interesting to note that the same entry, a painted image, could be an entry for two different people. It can be an entry for the photographer who hired the artist to paint their picture, or it can be an entry for the artist who is allowed to paint anyone's picture. They don't have to have taken that picture themselves. And I really
in the artist category.
In the artist category, but the photographer can enter it in the photographic open category. Now, of course, we do not want to see both of these images in the same year. You have to pick and choose. We don't want to see both these images from each person. Somebody gets ownership to this, and when it's a painted image like that, I'm sorry, I feel the ownership of that image belongs to the painter at that point. Because they created and they fixed the things that were probably wrong in the original photograph. I mean, I could give you a portrait of a guy where I just really screwed up the lighting, and I could say, make it look like I Rembrandt lit the sky, and where I screwed up the height of the light and he doesn't even have a catch eye, boom, there's a catch eye now because I got a painter. Boom, there's sculpted light on the fill side cheek because I had the light in the wrong place, and boom, etc. They can fix all the things that I did wrong, so I don't have to show any photographic skill. There we go.
So yeah, I mean, it's tough in the instance of painting. I really believe I'd love to see a rule change there, because I personally feel that crosses the line. The whole retouching thing, what a lot of people will say is, what's the difference between that and in the film days, or even now, where you have a developer that goes through and actually does the printing and all that? I mean, a lot of people just view that in the same vein. But I don't know. I personally don't totally buy that. I mean, I agree with that a little bit, but what you can do today digitally with digital retouching, I personally feel goes way beyond what you can do in the darkroom. I mean, would you agree with that, or am I off base with
yes, and I have darkroom experience. I do not have negative retouching experience. That's a whole science unto itself. And actually, that's what the master artist category used to be for a long time ago, was for the negative retouchers and that kind of thing, the spotters. But, that has gone by the wayside, and it has changed as a category. But, ultimately, for me, I think that competition should be all about you, the artist, and the skills that you have under your command. Because I can tell you what, I will never hire, I did enter some that fellow retouched for me, and honestly, they were beautiful. I could have never done some of that work myself, honestly, even though it was under my direction. And I kind of never really felt the joy in that platinum medal that I got that year, because one of the images was one that fellow worked on for me. It was beautiful, beautiful work, but I wasn't sure how much of that loan was really mine, I don't know, but that's just me.
Well, the next obvious question is this kind of thing, paying a retoucher, I mean, to do these, again, when I talk about the retouching, I'm talking about full treatments where, I mean, we're not just talking about this minor stuff, but full artistic treatments. Is this just, or getting someone to paint something for you, is it essentially just buying merits? Is that what a lot of this is? I mean,
wow.
Or no, or is that too strong of a term? I mean, I don't know. I'm just wondering.
I think that a lot of people say that in privacy, where they don't have to take any guff, and I think there is a measure to that. There are some people that are not pulling off a whole lot of good work on their own, but then when they go and employ a retoucher of the magnitude that we're talking about, they suddenly, the scores rise. And good for them. It's within the rules. I mean, what can we say about it? It's within the rules. But personally, and it just is not the way that I want to operate. I want to 100% get those merits myself. And here's a measure. If you look at some of those artists that we can employ, they will say, I have helped hundreds of artists or photographers get their master photography degree. I don't want anybody else to ever say that they were part of my accomplishment. I'm selfish. I want it to be all mine.
No, I get it. I mean, you're joking, but I mean, that's the whole point of it, is that personal achievement. I mean, I'm pretty much in line with you there. Yeah, when I want to get whatever I get, or when I'm going after a certain thing, yeah, when you get to that finish line, it's great to say, yeah, I did everything. Not only did I come up with the concepts, I shot it, I retouched it. There's so much more, I don't know, a sense of, or a feeling of accomplishment, when you go down that road. And not everyone may feel that way. And honestly, the point is, like you mentioned, it's completely within the rules, currently, to do that. So, I mean, it's not a question of if you're doing the right thing or the wrong. I mean, you're within the rules and it's fine. My whole thing is, should we be talking about that more? Or, should that be something that gets brought up within PPA, and they maybe, address that a little bit? I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say because I know people have different opinions on that, but.
Well, there's some people whose incomes are going to be severely diminished if that rule goes away. I don't know. It's just me, and that's what the master's degree meant to me. And actually, that's what competition means to me. I'm putting some things in comp right now that I intend on making a gallery show out of. I would never, ever, ever put a piece in a gallery show that wasn't 100% under my hand. I don't care. That's just how I feel about it. So it doesn't serve my purpose at all.
I think you hear this so much within competition all the time, right? We did a webinar not too long ago, and I think this came up, and it's a valid concern, but a lot of people, especially if they're new to the whole print competition world, they tend to think that it is about retouching, or people that maybe are not super experienced in digital retouching, they feel they can never compete because you hear this all the time. It's all about the retouching, and it's not about the photography, and I'll be one to agree that occasionally you do see images that you think, wow, it's an okay image, but man, the treatment is what really put it over the top. But I don't think that's completely true, and I come from the perspective of I'm not a great retoucher. I mean, I know very basic things, and people may look at certain things I do and they think that I know a lot, but honestly, I don't. And just like you, I'd like to think that I've accomplished a decent amount. And I have done that all myself, and I'm not this amazingly skilled person in how to retouch a photo. So I think the idea that you have to be some virtuoso in Photoshop in order to excel, some people may just really not know, or they may just be new. But I think a lot of people sometimes use that as a little bit of a crutch. I mean, they say, I'm never going to do good because I can't retouch, and therefore it's like this vicious cycle, right? A kind of a self prophecy type deal, right? Is that the term? What's the term I'm looking for? A self-fulfilling thing, right? You know what I'm talking about, right?
It's like self-sabotage almost. They find some reason and cling to it. But, let's look at their side of it, because usually, and this is what I do to my students, I give them a link to one of those videos that the PPA puts out, and more often than not, it's the ASP Best of the Best, which means it's the loans from the ASP members. And of course, it's filled with the most beautiful, beautiful images, and a high number of them are finished, obviously finished in Photoshop. There was some work done to them. And I think people that are new and starting out just don't even have that skill set to begin with. But the big wow ones are generally the ones that have had a lot of work done to them. And some of those composites that people do, I mean, gosh, my skill level just sucks in that department. But, I love when you were talking about you don't know how to retouch, or you don't, just do the basic stuff. That's the totally, the theory that I teach from. That's why I like to work with brand new competitors, because I am total proof that you do not need to know Photoshop in order to do well in competition. Photoshop is one of my worst skills. I will not teach a class in it. It would be ridiculous, because I don't even know shortcuts. I still use the menu for everything. But I teach that you can get it right in camera and have minimal Photoshop skills, and you can put out at least merit-worthy work.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that. I mean, and that's a skill that a lot of people on that same level that dismiss it, or when I do a workshop, we may be talking about a certain composition or something like that, and something as simple as cropping in camera. Like that's a concept that's very foreign to a lot of, they're like, well, I shot it like this, but later I'm going to crop it. And I'm not saying that you can't crop afterwards. I mean, we all do that at some point, but the idea of, no, I mean, for wedding photography especially, or on location portraits, the kind of stuff that I do, you see your image, you frame your image, you should be placing everything roughly how it is. Yes, if you go back and you tweak it here or there, it's okay. But a lot of people just have this idea of, I shoot everything way loose and then I crop everything later. And it's this kind of sloppy approach. I mean, a lot of people starting out, you don't know any better. That's totally understandable. But, this idea of getting it about 95 or 98% there, and we all use Photoshop to an extent, but man, you have to get it right in camera. You have to. I mean, if you're relying on Photoshop to do things for you, and well, like with lighting especially, and a lot of times people ask, a lot of with my wedding images and things like that, people ask, wow, yes, there's something about it. What do you do to your images or whatever, And I tell them, it's just about lighting is such a big part of it. Like getting gorgeous light on the face, that's what makes something look like it has been finessed. That's what gives it that polished quality versus, shooting on a cloudy day in the middle of an open field and you have this drab light and these really ugly shadows and no light in the eyes. Those are the images that people always want to ask, what do I do to this? What kind of action do I run? And the reason that it's not looking finesse is because the lighting's not there. I think the lighting is just such a big part of it,
Yeah. Boy, you're kind of bringing some bad memories back to me. I work with a lot of competitors. I do a lot of mentoring, and most of it's for free. But every once in a while, I don't know the way when I really work with people though. If they show me work, and okay, is this good for comp? And I'll say, okay, no, it's not good for comp. Like for example, if it's a portrait of a man and they've got him posed in a feminine manner or something like that, I'll say, okay, you've got some posing issues here you need to refine for men. So, if I were you, I would ditch this particular image and reshoot something, practice this skill and then reshoot something and then let me see it. And I appreciate that. But every once in a while I'll have the student that just wants to Photoshop an image to death, and you don't learn and grow that way. I'm telling you what was wrong. How about let's use this as an exercise, But some people that's just not how they want to do things, and they want to Photoshop them. And I'm not the teacher for them if that's the deal, but...
Oh my goodness. I feel like we're maybe going to get in trouble for this podcast from somebody. Maybe not. No, I think it's a valid question. I don't know. We talk about this a lot. I think a lot of people, like you mentioned, talk about it, but it never comes out into the open, which is what this whole podcast is about, right? To be able to discuss some of these things. And I don't know. My whole thing is I hope it gets reviewed. I hope at some point they maybe sit down and talk about, what is too much? If someone is doing all this editing work and you're not doing, at what point does that become the captivating part of an image that sends it to getting a score of a 90 or a 95, versus if that retouch work wasn't there, it might score an 82 or an 83. I mean, I don't know. I think we've gotten to a point where editing is so in depth that's something maybe worth revisiting. And I don't know if that rule at all has been, do you know, Christine, has it been changed in somewhat in that realm of retouching? Has there been any changes to that, or has it been like this for a while?
Not that I'm
no
aware
idea.
of, but if you want to hang on a minute, I can actually bring the actual manual up. See, maybe you should tell me what the topic is going to be before we get started, and that way I can have my reference material at hand. So just hang on a second. Well, maybe you won't admit it, but I'm on a diet. So anyone doesn't know, we're going to Disney World next week, and then maybe, I don't know, are we going to try to do a podcast from Disney? I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but we're going to meet down in Florida. Yeah, we're going to meet down in Florida. We're going to Disney. So I personally have been on a diet because I need to lose been on
like
a
500
diet
pounds
too.
But the reason I bring up the diet thing is everyone is looking for a quick fix, and the diet analogy is probably the one that most people can relate with, right? Lose 20 pounds in a week without any exercise, and you can still eat pizza and you can still eat ice cream and you'll lose 20 pounds. So many of us get sucked into that kind of thing because in general, we're always looking for the easy answer, right? So I feel a lot of this kind of relates back to, man, the easy answer is I take this image, then I send it to someone else, and they do all this work, and I think a lot of people come away with the idea that's an easy way to get something to score really well, And that's not everybody by any stretch, but I think that's that mentality, It's no one wants to say, hey, you know what, you need to learn how to do all this, and you need to sit down, take the time to, if you want these techniques done, sit down and learn how to do it, And then not only are you're growing yourself because now you've learned a whole new skill set. But, then when that image does incredible, man, what an accomplishment. What an accomplishment to know that you did it from 0 to 100. It was all you. It was all you. And I think a lot of people are looking just for that quick fix, I don't know.
Comp means different things to different people, and we'll probably tick off a whole crap load of people actually with our opinions, but it's our opinion. Okay, so anyway, here is the rule. It's rule 2. All processing, manipulation, and printing or rendering were done by the entrant or under their direct supervision. So
that's that word again. That's that word, under their direct supervision. That's the one that throws me out. Like you said, definitely some people may actually be sitting down next to someone, but come on, we all know that in the vast majority of cases, that is absolutely not what's happening.
Well, based on what I hear, you
gotta come out and say that.
Yeah, based on what I hear, no, that's not what's happening. There are legit situations. I think I've employed a couple legit situations, but then there's some that I'm kind of looking cross-eyed at, and I really wouldn't want to do it myself. I'm not saying that the people that do it are bad or anything. It's just really not for me, and it's not going to make me feel like I had that going on. It's always going to feel like it's a shared victory,
Yeah.
I'm selfish.
Yeah, and it's going to be a personal thing. I mean, like you said, right now it's within the rules. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I mean, you're within the rules. It's all good. But my question is, even if they do decide, hey, at some point, we're going to limit this, or, you could only have so much work done, whatever they decide to do, if they ever do it, how is any of that going to be enforceable? As is so many things within photography and digital editing, how do you enforce that? How do you know who's done what? There's no way. There's no way to know. There's no way to enforce
system. They just have to trust you as, a person with integrity, an artist, that, you're complying with the rules.
Okay, well, I think we've probably enough trouble for today. And if you want to escape from all the madness and the controversy, go to the Cat Island. Okay, go to Japan and live with the cats.
Awesome.
I'm sure they won't care what you do over there. Well, if you guys have not heard, we are on iTunes, so you can actually find this podcast now in the iTunes store. So if you have not already, if you have been listening, if you've enjoyed the podcast, we would love for you to go into the iTunes store, find the Make Photography Great Again podcast, leave us a rating, and leave us a review. That would be incredibly helpful to us. We'd love to hear back from you. And in addition to this whole topic today, I mean, what do you guys feel? We'd love to hear some different opinions. So if you have a strong opinion, if you absolutely disagree with what we're saying, we would love to hear from you. So if you go on our website, makephotography.greatagainpodcast.com, you will see on the right hand of the screen a way to contact us. Shoot us out an email. We would love to hear your opinions and your thoughts as well. If you have any topics, I'm sure you'll agree with this, Christine, that you would love for us to talk about or anything like that, shoot us an email as well. We'd love to hear those, and we can definitely incorporate some of those into some future podcast episodes. But check out the website, check out the iTunes store. You can listen to all the past episodes on there. And next week, we will be back with another super controversial episode of this podcast.
Somebody's likely to be offended.
Because that's what we do, right?
Yes.
Cool. Well, hey, you guys take care, and we will catch you next week from Disney.
Yep. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to Make Photography Great Again with Christine Walsh-Newton and Ted Linzak. Come back next Tuesday for a brand new episode. For more information and access to the podcast archive, please visit our website, makephotography great again podcast.com.